a group at some point in time. It was very, at one point in time for quite an extended period of time, there was nothing around there. So this house was alone by itself in its location at the time. It was on the other side of town, like I said, from where the man that I was working with and his wife, they were living at the house where the father was living, but he was wandering off. He didn't know where he was. They actually went around the whole town to look for him, and he found him in front of this house. But he kept on going there all the time. I guess there wasn't much communication between him and the son, but like I said, when we got involved with the case, they had already extracted the stuff, with some of it when we got there. So it was very strange. We've gone to the houses and found all kinds of artifacts. I mean, magic. You go on the website and magic circles that are, when you tear the old carpet up, magic circles that are that's on the website probably 50 or 60 years ago at least. So stuff can happen on a piece of property. The person has no mind about it, and then they themselves have a spiritual problem. They're drawn to this place, and then they'll be drawn to another place, and then to another place. But you wouldn't know that just by your standard investigation. You really got to look deep in that. You'd have to go into the historical records. You got to go to like geographical encyclopedias. You got to go to the town hall. You got to talk to the local sexton. There's a lot of research.
Yeah.
You got to go to the Grave Down and.
So I guess I probably should do this because we're already buzzing through the show. My guest tonight is Dave Considine, religious demonologist. I've got a bunch of questions. I'm scrambling to write them all down from the chat room. So if you think I'm missing you, I'm just letting Dave answer the questions. We're having a good time. If we run out of time tonight, I'll just keep the list and I'll bring them back on sometime. So just don't worry, everybody. Okay. One of the questions here was Living TV. They noticed that on your Wikipedia page, the non-parody page apparently. Is that for work that you did with Most Haunted?
Oh, they have listed on there. I actually worked a lot of the hauntings, the earlier ones. We did the first one we did was Hell House. That was the first day haunting that was on, and we worked with them season 1 through 4, and we appeared I think on each season because we didn't have at that point in time just my cases. I couldn't because when you're working with the church, you have to when they have certain things they need you to do, you have to work it around what you're doing. So I mean everything with that is just like you see me here at the motel tonight. Just at that point in time, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
And then the next one.
But we worked, season 1 through 4. I worked on over a dozen of them. Because they had a lot of exorcism involved. There was a lot of critical points that they needed worked out. Versus real cases, what happens and stuff. But, a lot with Joe Madre. He's in California now, still working with the company and great producers.
The next question comes from our good friend Sherry James. You scared?
Yeah, absolutely.
The percentage of cases that are demonic versus mentally challenged individuals with no actual demonic activity.
I have to say 40-60.
40% being the mental, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say that probably the 60.
Okay. Just making sure we're all
on the same page. Yeah, throwing in there that we have a drug problem. I would imagine Sherry might be also including drug problems or some type of.
Yeah, that wasn't an option, but I'm sure we'll just other issues versus demonic. I guess
I'd say 60. I'd say 60. 40. 40 for the demonic. Trust me, we're getting an increase. There is an increase. It's been here the whole time. There's definitely an increase as far as I can see. And people I'm talking to. I think that Sherry. Sherry's she is a great mind, and she's involved in the work too, and. She would know. I mean, she's out there too. Yeah, so great question. I would say myself, personally, I'd say 60-40. Yeah, definitely 40 for demonic and 60 for mentally ill, psychosis in some way, or some type of addiction.
Yeah. So the last question.
Can I answer that?
We got that pretty good. And the other question I have here is. Somebody wants to know a little background, a little bit. When did you start to get into this? And the way back before.
Wayback
Machine. Take us back memory.
Well, I saw Ed Lorraine after I had an experience. When I was 12, I had an experience. I think I told the story a lot of times. I had an experience by my parents' house. Something approached me. It was fishing. It was going towards nighttime, and this thing came up to my left-hand side. I've never had a problem down there ever. There were 2 people who lost their lives, but I mean, it was really not exactly in that area. But I don't know what happened that day, but it approached me. It was a black form. And it terrified me, and I ran out of there. I left my fishing rod, my tackle box, everything. Ran all the way back home. I tried to tell my mother. I was hysterical. I didn't even know what I told her. Got my brother to come down to me the next day, get my gear. It was still there. But I was intrigued. You know, I went and read a lot of books at the library. Had my mother run me up to the Blackstone Library. And took out everything I could on witchcraft, ghosts, everything, you know. And there wasn't too many TV shows on at that time. This is probably, 82, somewhere around 82. I went to see Ed and Lorraine Warren in 83. Now, I went to see them. I picked up a demonologist book. You know, the Demonologist. I'm sure everybody out there read the Demonologist. Great book. It scared me. Wow. At that age, it really scared me, 13 years old. Went to a lecture. Loved it. Went up to Ed, and he said, "What's your name?" I said, "My name's David Considine." And I handed him my book, and he's signing it. And he goes, "Doesn't this stuff scare you?" And I didn't really answer him. And I think I said yes. And I said, "I'd like to do what you do." And he kind of laughed at me. And he handed me my book, and he said, "Well, contact me in a few years." I contacted him when I was around probably 17. So I started with him between my 17 and 18, probably, more towards 18. I started in cases. I mean, Ed would put you right there. I mean, Barbie, her first case was a heck of a case. I mean, it was actually, her first case was dealing with Maurice Theriault. If anyone out there has read Satan's Harvest, this had to do with Maurice's daughter. So it had to do with Maurice's family. And there was very, very bad things that were happening. But that was the first case she was involved with. So he would put you right into so you'd learn if he thought that you had the stuff, you know. So I ended up working with them and befriended Bishop McKenna. Years went by. I became friends with, Father James LaBarre, spent time with these people and, learning from them. I worked with Malachi Martin. I worked extensively with Father Rama Kumaraswamy, Dr. Father Kumaraswamy. And he was the assistant professor at Albert Einstein Institute. And he gave me a lot of the knowledge that I have about, psychiatry and psychosis, in dealing with individuals and different things that can go wrong. And he would do evaluations for me, too. So I would be able to get these letters through him and be able to see these things myself, and he can explain these things to me. So that was a great resource. Just worked with a lot of clergy. I work with many exorcists. I work under 4 active bishops right now in 4 different countries, and also primarily under Bishop Robert McKenna, whom is retired now and is I can't give us where he is now. He's not Our Lady of the Rosary Chapel anymore, but he's at a location retiring. So
he's allowed to do that.
Yeah, I have letters of recommendation from clergy and bishops and people I work with, and just thought that I might be okay for the work, and working with people as a spiritual, kind of a spiritual social worker or religious demonologist. I received, when I became a religious demonologist, that was under Bishop Robert McKenna, and that occurred in 1998. That was when I became a full-on religious demonologist. I had been going. I started my group in 1994. And working with all these other individuals, I started, Phantasm Psychic Research. Just wanted to kind of make to help, the section wider for helping more people. But anyway, I don't want to go on a rant. But
go ahead. You're doing good. I asked a loaded question, didn't I?
Well, just like I said, one thing, I know you had said to me, I'm not sure if it was on the air or not, but there's a lot of individuals that they work with cases where they're dealing with people who are, well, you can have suicide, that could be a factor. People, I've noticed a lot of cases lately with cutters. A cutter just cut themselves a little bit. They tell you that it makes them feel better. That's what they think. So they cut themselves. But sometimes they can cut themselves a little too deep, or they see, full-on cycle. So you got to be really careful when you're dealing with somebody. If you're an investigator, you have to know when to hand that off, even to hand it off to the police. If you ever feel that there's something going on with maybe molestation, you see any bruises on the child that no spirit did that. You see something that you think that's a little suspicious, don't be afraid to say something, because you'll regret it later.
Yeah, you've got to swallow your pride at points, no matter.
Yeah. Don't be so apt to trust the people you're working with. You're there to help them. Don't you be so apt to trust them. And if you see, like I try to, I try to tell these things. You know me, Jim. I try to, things that I went through and things I did wrong. And I'll tell you one of them. Don't ever, if you go to a house, any team out there, you go to a house and you see somebody's got maybe like a $20 bill or $10 bill, don't put that away. Or a camera. Or something, where afterwards, if you don't like what you're doing or something, we've had instances where we had one client where one of our holy water bottles broke, and we took an empty Pepsi bottle, washed it out with the regular water, so nothing was in it, and we had to use it. We wouldn't normally do this, and we had to put the remainder in to be able to get it home. They got mad at us. It's a 5-cent bottle. They happened to not be there because we had to leave. We locked into the house. But people can change on you, A 5-cent bottle. I needed it to be able to hold the holy water because I didn't want it to dump on the floor because it was really, really dripping out bad. So they weren't there at the time, Sometimes in cases they can become they're violent to the point where you don't want you'll have the family there to see what the activity is, but at some points in time when you do investigations, maybe ones that are very post, you wouldn't, I don't even know if that's even an expression, but the ones that you're going to be doing after your initial ones, if you're going to be doing them, you may not want to have the family there, if it's a violent one. You might want to have them stay at a motel, or something to do that.
Yeah, and Sherry just made a good point here in the chat room. Get them to sign legal, I could almost say that, waivers.
But she mentioned that, sure. If you got anybody in your group, who's a lawyer, who's got a brother who's a lawyer, somebody who, even thinks that you guys are okay, just maybe even laughs you off or whatnot, but do you a favor, get some kind of paper or, paperwork signed. And if you got a notary public in your group, you're ace. You have to stamp that thing, He's not going to be able to be a part of the investigation tonight. That's the only problem if you get a notary, because he's not going to be able to be a part of that because the action he can't partake in. So he's going to have to go home. So maybe you guys could buy him a burger later on or something for breakfast.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Sure for breakfast that you guys get out after all the whole night long, But you can get nailed. I mean, you really can. And if you're dealing with children, be careful. Be really, really careful. I made lots of mistakes. I told you about a lot of them.
I know. And you got to hear about them, though, because if not, what's that old line? Those who don't understand history are doomed to repeat it.
Sure, everybody tells you about their greatness, but they don't tell you about what can go wrong. Just be careful what we get on your toes. Like I said, the primary thing is don't trust. You're not there to really trust.
No, you're there.
You need them to trust you. You know what your intention is, and if they don't trust you initially, then you really shouldn't be there anyway. So that shouldn't be any question anyway. So.
And the other line Sherry just posted is make sure it does not state you're providing professional mental health care. Good.
Yeah, true too.
Another good point there. She's on a roll of
right.
it. She should be writing a blog about this as we're talking. And then you can go back through and start your well, she said biography, but we're just going to say autobiography and push it off to her.
Very, very well. She writes very, very well.
She does.
I know she's doing some reading also, so that's could be a little different, but she has training in that. So it's not easy to read. Trust me, I know. I try to do it every week. I don't sound so good, but I try. I hope you guys understand me.
Well, that was my next. Well, I have another question from the chat room, and then we'll talk about your.
Oh, sure.
I have that wrote down, so I won't forget my question about that. So don't worry. There it went. See, that's why I wanted to get to that. Okay. How did Dave get certified from the Roman Catholic Church, and what did he have to do to get that certification?
Like I said, that was. I have Come Imperial Essay, which is Imperial Authority. That's from Bishop McKenna, and it's before the bishops. It doesn't matter if there are different countries. Mine are in different countries, but it doesn't matter. They could be all in the same country. But you have to have the authority, and you have to have it through multiple dioceses. And I have it in the traditional sense. I work mostly with the traditional Catholic Church. But I also work with the Orthodox, and I also work with Novus Ordo, too. So I work, I work with Protestant denominations, just about everything. Anything you can imagine. Evangelical, the whole Protestant line. So we've had every denomination you can imagine. Buddhists, Hindus. It's a little different road, when you're working with somebody who's outside of the Christian faith. We never, ever push on anybody. It's getting the person together. That's the first and foremost thing, When you're hitting this, a lot of times when you're someone like me or your clergy